Alrighty, boys, let's talk about it. So we have a discussion thread. No dev replies this time. Just we're going to be talking about this topic right over here. We have mounted unit balance, competing design philosophies. Okay, so this player right over here, he's going to tell us his philosophy. I'm going to say my parts. I'm going to see what I agree, what I disagree with, and kind of give my take on mounted units in Bannerlord in general, and kind of give you some stuff that the devs have said as well. So, in a way, it's new information for some, old information for others. We'll see how it goes. Like always, I'm going to link this down below if you guys want to go check it out for yourself, join the conversation. But let's do it. So, the main person, main poster, states, so I wanted to open a discussion because in both game design and discussions here, I see a clash of two different philosophies around mounted units. First one is mounted units are straight up better than non-mounted units. True. They are faster on both the battlefield and strategic map. In battle, they seem to be straight up better than their non-mounted counterparts, both ranged and melee in every situation. They get an explicit advantage in auto-resolve. That's not true, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think that's true. I don't think number 3 is completely true. Next one is upgrading to a mounted unit is a lot more expensive for the player, and the player is severely limited by the number of available war horses. Okay. And as far as I can tell, this is historically more accurate. Alright, so before we move on, historically accurate, yes, mounted units are obviously better, and just, common sense wise, of course, speed and maneuverability in any situation is obviously better. And I do agree. Obviously, they are faster. In battle, they are straight up better. It makes sense. This one, I'm not completely sure about. I'm not 100% sure about. Them being explicit advantage and auto resolve, I'm not sure about that. Then we have upgrading amount of units is a lot more expensive, as it should be, I think, in my opinion. And the player is severely limited by the number of available war horses. Again, I think that it's in a good place. I think that if you visit the saddle horse villages enough, and if you fight enough large AI parties and armies, you will get the war horses that you need. But I like the fact that they are kind of harder to find. I think that's fine. It kind of gives you that better feeling when you have a team full of fully upgraded warhorse required units. It feels good to get that achievement, right? In my opinion, so I kind of enjoy that. And then as far as historically accurate, speed is all. It's part of the game, man. You know what I mean? The game of life too. If you're fast on your feet, if you're not even talking about battle wise. I'm just talking about like in general. You know what I mean? Speed is a very big contributing factor to a lot of things. And then he states, but at the same time, the second philosophy is mounted units are equivalent to non-mounted units. Well, this is cap. I don't know who wrote this one, but all right, let's read what they say. Unit limit and upkeep is the same as for regular units. That is true. AI can create them for the same price as regular units. It is not limited by available war horses. That is also true. They have a temporary cheat. It is just FYI, the devs are planning, well, not planning, how can I say this? They have talked about removing it very, very soon because the snowballing score, which is the score that shows how stable all the kingdoms are after 20, 30, 40 years down the line, has become so balanced in a way that they need to unbalance it a little bit, and they are thinking of removing this cheat that requires this cheat that gives AI the no requirement for horses whenever they upgrade, apart from the player who actually needs a horse to actually do an upgrade. And then we have some AI factions just field more mounted units without any apparent disadvantages to compensate, and thus are both faster and better in auto-resolve. Again, the auto-resolve feature I'm not completely sure about. I think it might go by the tier of the units. I don't think it goes by is it a horse or if it's not a horse unit. I do not think that's how it works, in my opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that's not how it seems to be. All right, let's see what he keeps. Before I say my part on the whole horse thing, let's see what he has to keep saying. So he continues, I feel like the mix of these philosophies results in a lot of back and forth in the form of cavalry units is OP. Yes, they're supposed to be, so I might propose that we go all the way into one of those directions. Make mounted units the equivalent 1.5 non-mounted units in both upkeep and unit limit. You, for example, have 60 infantry or 40 cavalry units. I think in most respects they already are, and this would solve a lot of problems in my eyes, namely that your strength as a player indirectly depends on how close you are on the map to cheap war horses. Some weird exploits have the auto upgrade mounted units, then take them back. That's been fixed, by the way. This doesn't work anymore. It used to, but it's been patched a couple updates back. And most importantly, army composition and faction balance. What do you think are the downsides I'm overlooking? All right, so here's what I think. Here's my philosophy on it. I think that mounted units are straight up better than non-mounted units. Do I think this needs to change? No. I think it makes sense. It's a whole horse. You know what I mean? It's a whole horse. Horses are big. Horses are fast. You know what I mean? And to make them equivalent to non-mounted units is about the dumbest thing ever. Because what's the point of the horse then? He might as well the mounted unit might as well get off his horse if he's going to be equivalent to the non-mounted unit. You know what I mean? But here's the downside. The reason some people want this is because there's no drawback right now to horses, apart from the upgrade fee, which I think is so minuscule and people make such a big fuss about it. Like, I can't believe the AI get this cheat and I don't. When in all reality, if you just, realize that in some places it's cheaper and you have to travel there to get it, which makes sense. You know what I mean? If an area on the map has cheaper horses, another area of the map has cheaper this, another area of the map has cheaper that. That's fine. If you learn those zones, if you learn that the villages that produce horses give you the lowest price, you'll do better in your playthroughs. That's not something that the devs have to fix. That's just something the player has to learn and play to their advantage on. And in my opinion, the AI having this cheat is just so they can compensate, because at the end of the day, they are AI. They are just code that's made to do things. The player, if the player plays for a significant amount of time and learns kind of the basics of the game and kind of the more intricacies of the game, they're always going to be better than the AI regardless. That's why the AI needs these cheats. I understand it might not be not completely 100% fair, but if you want the game to be super easy, play it on super easy. You know what I mean? There's cheats. Literally, when you start the game, you can either choose, easy, super, super easy, normal, and then hard, right? It's your choice. You know what I mean? I don't want them to pretty much make it easy for even the hardcore settings. You know what I mean? I even think those are still too easy. I think there should be another mode, which they are thinking of doing, which is called the Iron Man mode, which has been talked about in the forum post, that has to do kind of with single player changes that are coming very soon. So they are thinking of kind of a harder mode, which I completely agree on. But sticking on topic, here's what I want from horses, and here's what I think makes the most sense in terms of to make them just a little bit more balanced without completely making them useless. Here's what I want. The AI cheat can stay. I don't really care if it goes away or if it stays. It's not that big of a deal. People make it too much of a big of a deal when it's really not. You can play it smart. You can it's worth the upgrade. You know what I mean? It's worth the extra stuff again, because they're a lot better than, as stated right here, non-mounted units. Now, to balance them a little bit, first, here's a thing that we have in the game currently. If you are on your horse and your horse gets wounded and doesn't die but gets knocked down in the battlefield, it becomes a lame horse. And there's a perk that makes that only a 50% chance, but if you don't have that perk, if your horse goes down, it becomes a lame horse. What is a lame horse? It's pretty much a horse with a lot worse statistics. You know what I mean? In terms of speed, maneuverability, HP, all of that. And you don't want that. You want, the best type of horse. So first, people might not like this because they already don't like the fact that you need to buy horses for upgrades. But I feel that if one of the units in your party, what's it called, loses their horse, there should be a 50% chance that the horse dies or gets to be lame. Now, I understand that might be a little bit harder to implement, but there should be a chance that they get demoted back. not even demoted back. They can just be, you can just literally name them whatever their name is, and then just like put no horse or something like that in parentheses, something like that. Like they're missing their horse, and then you have the option, if you have another horse in your inventory, to give it back to them and kind of upgrade them back into that horse unit. You don't have to spend gold for it, just give them back another horse. That's one thing that I think should be implemented. That will make it so, if it'll make it so you can't be just an idiot with horses and just run into it straight on, into most battles. Because you have to think, hey, if all these guys drop, I need like 20, 30 more horses to make sure they get a new horse. So that's one thing I think we should do. Second, it's a horse. Horses eat. It's a living creature. And I think it's kind of ridiculous, even though it doesn't have to be 100% realistic, but I don't understand why there's not a grain usage for horses. What I mean by this, grain is all over the map, and if you don't, I don't know, do horses eat fish? They might not eat fish, right? I don't think they eat fish. But if we're not really caring about like the ultra realistic thing, shoot, even put fish on there, because fish and grain are the two most. Grain is number one, then fish is number two when it comes to the main food in Bannerlord. So this will not be hard to implement, but because there's so much food and so much grain and fish, we can even just keep it on the conversation on grain, right? Since there's so much grain on the map, it wouldn't be that hard to put, let's say, 1/5 of the amount that a unit takes per day, a horse takes per day in terms of grain, right? So you always have to keep grain on you if you have an army full of horses, because they need something to feed on every day. Like I said before, it doesn't have to be the same as how much a human eats per day. It could be less, even though it doesn't make sense, because horses would eat more than humans naturally. But we're not going for super ultra realistic. We're just going for something that would give us a little bit more balance. So therefore, I think if you gave horses this grain intake that they need every single day, or they will start dying off, they'll start becoming lame, their statistics are going to get bad, and then over time they will just die off because you're not feeding them. I think that is important. I think that makes 100% sense in my head. But and people have agreed with me before, because I've made this statement a lot of times. But I don't know. It should definitely be in the game. I think horses should take grain, or whatever else they choose. But grain should definitely be on there. And grain is everywhere. Grain is literally made in every single village in a way. You know what I mean? Not in a way. Mostly every single village. So I think it just makes sense, personally, in my opinion. And I think that will give it balance. I think that will. But what else do we got over here? In terms of AI factions, devs have talked about, Khazaits obviously have, whenever it comes to their army composition, it's 35% cavalry on average. And other kingdoms, every other kingdom, is about 12 to 15%. And the devs have said that the 12 to 15% is a good place for it to be. The problem is, right now, is with the Empire faction. And why the Empire faction does so poorly against every other kingdom in a way, right? Especially the Khazaits, because they border the Khazaits, is because they have a cavalry average, if I'm not mistaken, something like 7 to 9%, something very, very low, because their main cavalry line is in their noble tech tree. So every single kingdom has the normal recruits, or whatever they're called, that you start off with that and you go down the tech tree, and there's different choices, obviously. And every kingdom has a cavalry choice in that normal tech tree. The problem is the Empire factions only have it in their noble tech tree, and only a certain amount of nobles, I think it's something around 25% on the map, nobles will give you, it's pretty much nobles with above 200 power. They're the only ones that give you noble recruits, right? And noble recruits usually start off at like tier 3, tier 4, and they are more powerful units. They're, for example, in Britannia, The noble tech tree is what gives you that very, very good archer, the best archer in the game, for example. But yeah, that's one thing that's a big problem right now. And the devs have obviously stated that they want to improve that number. And also, a thing that's coming very soon is that, well, no, it's already in the game, but it's actually going to get improved even more. So what's currently in the game is that villages bound to castles, the nobles in those villages that you can recruit from, they have a daily power gain that villages connected to settlements do not have. And this will pretty much help castles provide a lot better units, or pretty much, the villages attached to the castles, which pretty much makes it, the castle itself. This will make it so almost all the villages over time that are connected to castles will provide you with a noble tech tree, and this will improve the empire's cavalry ratios and a lot of the other factions' cavalry ratios. It's not going to go to 35% like the Khazaits, but it's going to be in a good enough area. And yeah, that's pretty much my little, I guess, not rants, but kind of like, information dump on the mounted situation in the game. Let's see what else. What else we got? Have you tried using cavalry units in a battle in single player? It seems like the two conflicting ideas because they are two completely different things going on. In live combat, cavalry is very weak. They miss their attacks often, ride mindlessly into enemies, and die easily. That's not true. Well, yeah, cavalry... Okay, never mind. I sound like an idiot. Auto-calculation, cavalry does get an advantage. I messed up. They do have an auto-calculation advantage. But if I'm not mistaken, that was taken off, I think maybe for sieges only. I might have had a brain fart. That is true. They do have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to battles, but not sieges. That was my mistake. But yeah, okay. We have a lot of big posts here. Interesting. Speaking of which, a battle between Fion champions and Khan's guards would likely show much different. Well, yeah, when you're talking about the extremes, then yeah, if you did 200 of the best archers in the game versus 200 of, the horseman archers, pretty much the best horseman archers in the game, yeah, the Battanian Fion champions will do better, but again, that's very, you know what I mean? It's the extremes. We're talking about on average, really. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it for me. I said my piece, he said his piece, and I think I'm gonna go from there. But actually, let's see what he has to say. Making cavalry wages more expensive and they consuming more food will greatly help this. Yes, consume food. I think if cavalry consumes food, it will help a lot. War horses historically needed to feed grain. Yep. There it is. Making cavalry wages more expensive? Nah. Wages are already very expensive. I think, nah. I think the food thing would be good, a good start, and then maybe if it doesn't do as much, then maybe this. But I think the food thing first needs to come in. Also, infantry AI really needs to be improved. They're very bad at melee, don't use the advantage of formations at all, and they should be teamwork. Currently, if you want the best performance possible for infantry, just tell them to charge and forget them. Stationary / slowly advancing units fight much worse. Yeah, that is true. Listen, F1, F3 will never do you wrong. Don't believe what all the formation, people say on the forums. F1, F3 has never done me wrong. Listen, if you know F1, that is to move to a position. F1, F2, that's to follow. F1, F3 is to win. And that's it. Listen, that's going to do it for me. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think that needs to be done in terms of changes. Do you agree or disagree with what I've said and all of that? And yeah, ask me any questions, any concerns, and I will see you in the next one.